Greetings and welcome back to the Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel, where we are just returning from a week-long teaching gathering up at Maine Primitive Skills School, where I was collaborating with the gentleman who runs it, Michael Douglas, to lead a bunch of activities, teach a bunch of different skills, and at the conclusion of this, we had a little sit-down conversation with the folks who were still there about primitive skills, what they mean, different ways of thinking about them, how each of us think about them, and I wanted to share it here. So if you're interested, come along.
Hey,
Hey.
Adam from Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel, and also walks a really incredible path outside of the videos are awesome. They're incredibly charged with information, know-how, and practical application. You take people on a journey that connects us to skills that may have become a mere whisper, a little spark that was carried forward from thousands of years, but seems in these days to be a valuable reconnect to what's real and authentic and useful in our lives. So I don't know, I'm a fan. I appreciate the work you do, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mike from Maine Primitive Skills School, who has been operating these skills and helping to blow on those little whispers of an ember and get some of those to go. And I love how you said that it's skills that have died to a whisper. These are not skills that have died out.
Yes.
There is a distinction. Like a lot of times people want to talk about the narrative of the lost skill and the last practitioner and, fill in the blank, but that's really kind of a colonizing narrative, right? Because if it's gone and I've rekindled it, then I own it. But I don't.
Yeah, we're carriers. We suddenly become carriers of the sacred gift.
Carrying yes, exactly. Carrying something that has been, we're just trying to blow on that tinder bundle a little bit and then hot potato it to somebody else.
Yes.
Right? It's stewards of a thing, not owners of a thing.
Right.
That is an important distinction.
It's like this idea of no impact camping. We kill every day in order to live. But do we dance in a manner that produces more at the end of our trail, handing it off better than we found it? Or is it those with the biggest toys win? Sure, adolescence is a healthy stage of growth, but it's also a sign of injury in an adult.
Yes.
And transcending the man versus wild, brother, into more of a 70, 80-year-old wisdom keeper gardener who's going to have more fruiting bodies and trees that rain down nuts and, in their wake.
Yeah.
Which one do you want in the long term for your grandchildren or for your children or for yourself? That one level, there's a stage in time for it, but boy, at least in my 50s, it is unsustainable, right? There's a better way.
I love, there's absolutely nothing primitive about what I'm about to say, but Star Trek. As the Star Trek canon evolved, like the most admired character in all of Star Trek is Boothby, the Federation Academy groundskeeper.
Yes.
I love that.
Yes. And the combination of wisdom and exasperation, right?
Yes.
I was told,
oh, you future captains, stop being so stupid.
yes. Why do you always carry that us versus them? Because it makes good television? Our ratings on our news cycle goes up? I don't know. There's a better story out there, and and the cool part is it's all of your story. It's the story you carry with the interests you have and the talents and skills that you possess in the community you find yourself in. And that's what's beautiful about these skills, whether it's making those incredible long-range throwing sticks, which are airfoils. There's magic when you throw something with your own arm and see it travel 60 to 80 yards. And the precision and the honing. And imagine just stone tools, but hunger is driving you, and suddenly you're all in. Your whole antenna array, your intellectual capabilities, your emotional intelligence is all at peak because the landscape is refining you to be a sharp, precise, effective, and efficient instrument like this. I mean, these are amazing. Here in the Northeast, we throw clubs short distances. It's a shotgun effect. These are sniper rifles.
And then you think about inventing that without the luxury of knowing anything about actual aerodynamics, right? And I'm convinced that the throwing stick evolution is driven by 8-year-olds trying to get a farther stick than their brother and eventually evolving in this, but sometimes that's the brilliant simplicity of it.
And I know everyone listening can hear you because they were that 8-year-old.
Yes!
Right? We all built shelters,
Yes.
we all pretended to be animals, we all had these, almost as if it was a pre-programmed genetic expression of wisdom through the generations.
The trail of a Boy Scout with their first hatchet is easy to follow.
Yes, but if you,
Whack! Whack!
yes. And if guided by mentors in a community that, you know, cherishes and respects not only that small youth growing into that feral human,
Yes.
but the eventual woodsmaster who precisely cuts with their axe no more than they need to swing to fell that tree exactly where it should be dropped.
And avoiding the knots that will chip it.
Mm-hmm. That's the end of that route. We just have to be patient and guiding with that. So yeah, questions. Anybody have any questions out there? Because I've had questions of me. Why do you call it primitive? Because primitive simply means first skills. And their first skills handed through the generations and refined over those generations. Now they've got the taint of the love of our great-grandparents. In a really heartfelt manner, these skills exist in our presence because someone loved enough to pass them forward. So when I hear that word primitive, it's attached to the love of my grandparents, their grandparents, all of the grandparents that unite us in this idea of humanity expressing itself in a healthy and dynamic environment. And it's a healthy and dynamic environment because humanity is expressing itself in it fully. That, to me, is why I can't put it on the shelf for someone else to choose to feel pain. That pain isn't going to go away if I put the respect for my grandmothers and grandfathers on the shelf for them. I'm holding that love harder than you can hate because I hated. No compromise. I was in that space. But grandma's cookies, man, they'll dismantle armies. They'll put those rifles down and hear the stories of grandpa around the campfire. And in doing so, see the common things we hoped. That's more powerful.
Which is why I like ancestral skills.
Yeah.
That's my favorite term for it, ancestral skills.
Yeah, you'll be able to talk to those angry 20-somethings. I'm just weeding them
So-
out.
so-
Like, we have a different approach, but it's still sacred approach.
It is. Yeah, it is.
We don't have to
Oh yeah,
hate
that's
on
not
each other.
criticism.
Right?
Yeah, that's not criticism.
I mean, I heard a joke once. I think it was Tony Tenfinger said, how many natives does it take to change a light bulb? 100. One to do it, and the other 99 to argue, that's not how my ancestors did it. Look, it's easy to find those divisive stories, and people are selling them to us. Like the Burger King and McDonald's junk food. It's junk food for dividing the line. The grandma's stories are way better. And grandfather's stories, they bring us around the fire, and we see how much more we have in common than we don't. Side effects might include friendships and community and healthy outcomes and less stress, you know.
That's horrible.
We don't get sold that.
We can't have those.
No.
That's bad. Terrible.
Oh, yeah. You know, go through this whole thing, us versus them. You've got to go through it. That 20-something-year-old energy is required to make the wheel move. It pushes the stodgies out in a way, or it makes them question what they're doing, holding space the way they do. That's a necessary thing. But at the same time, there's something after it. And you've earned it when you get through that threshold.
I think there's a degree of you have to touch the stove to know what hot means. There,
Yeah, look at the
you have to
passion,
touch the stove.
and then look at your wake. How many big bridges have been burned rather than built?
And you have to chop a pine knot before you understand that a pine knot can break a hatchet.
I've got some curled hatchets just for
You have to baton your knife through a knot and see it look like a beaver chewed on the edge to realize that
Yeah.
maybe that's why all the others weren't doing that.
I always take the first aid kit because I know someone's going to cut themselves after the knife safety class. Every time. Yeah. We bring what we don't want by worrying. Worrying is praying for what you don't want, and those prayers will be
Yeah.
answered.
I'm glad I never cut myself. Stitches. Should have had stitches, but I didn't.
So, any questions about what we're doing and why? And why? I mean, you must feel a draw to these skills, or else you wouldn't be here. Maybe that's a question. How does this pertain to my daily life? Who's got one?
I mean, that one was a good start.
All right.
Huh?
How do these skills pertain to our daily life? And then you could ask me. 'Cause I don't know if I've answered, or I can answer it. You choose.
How do they pertain to daily life?
Yeah.
Well, okay, doing all the farm and building things, I'm a little closer to this than somebody who might be listening from, an apartment complex.
Yeah.
I think the answer is however you want them to,
Mm.
right? That's kind of like the power of the Sloyd tradition and the Sloyd learning. From Northern Europe, right? The idea of like the grandfather giving tips to the dad as he's teaching the son how to whittle a thing, right? A cooksa, a cup, a bowl, whatever, all gathered around the campfire or the home hearth. And we kind of, my wife and I kind of live that just in the things we do. But that can happen in an apartment complex. There's, I forget the name of the author. There was a book written, an English guy in the early 1900s went up and observed that and saw that family structure that created, and was so impressed by it, he wrote a whole homeschool curriculum on educational Sloyd. Odo something. You can Google it. Educational Sloyd will pull it up. It's still available, been reprinted like 8 bajillion times.
Yeah.
It's a technical term. So that is absolutely possible. Maybe you don't have a hearth in your apartment complex, but you can do that, right? You can embrace these things and learn these things and live in that way wherever you are. You can learn. You don't need fancy and you don't need expensive to start learning a skill, right? You can go outside your apartment complex, you can grab some grass and start learning the muscle memory of a reverse twist.
Yeah.
Right? Are you going to make great cordage? No. Are you going to weave a basket with it? No. Is it going to have a high tensile strength? No, but now you have the muscle memory.
Yeah.
So when you find that patch of dog bane in the ditch on your way to work, you'll know how to work with it, right? You can get a piece of pine and whittle a cooksa in an apartment with 2 knives, right? It doesn't take a lot, and it can be as much a part of your life as you want it to be, wherever you are. And there's a huge empowerment and sense of place, fishing for the word, right? Sense of place in the world in which you exist, if you can just do those things, right?
Yeah.
Everything you learn gives you a little bit more of that sense of place and empowerment. And every time you get muscle memory doing one thing, you'll do something else and you're like, oh wait, this is that same thing. So every new skill gets easier after you learn the first one. If you can reverse twist, learning to crochet will be easier, and vice versa. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if you can do both of those, weaving a basket will be easier, and vice versa. It doesn't matter which one you pick up first.
Yeah.
Go
So
for
for
it.
me, I think while you were talking about it and bringing up how subtle a peace of mind is, and because it's so subtle, if we're not thankful for it every day, the loud, crashy stuff that makes us want to worry and have strife in our life will take over the sheet music. So
There's a military helicopter flying over here.
oh, they found us. Oh well. Come on in, we'll show you how to play in the woods.
Yeah.
I came out of the Marine Corps, and here's the example of how subtle. I thought I was behind. When I was in college, I was a jarhead, fresh out, going right to the University of Maine, and I ended up living in the woods for 2.5 years in my debris hut because I didn't have the resources that everybody else did to go, and I was working, washing dishes and odd jobs to pay for the tuition and the books and things, but that would be more than I could fathom as having to pay for a place to stay. So in the times I did stay somewhere, I was pledge class president at the fraternity, but the real goal was be a part of this community and earn my way to allowing them to have me stay there for a free place to stay, but to do it in a way that they feel like they're getting the value, right? Mutually beneficial. And so I washed all the dishes every night. I did everything I could to to be of value in that community. And I didn't realize where it came from. This is technology. This is ancestral technology, community building. I didn't realize what was going on, because what story was in my head, the modern fairy tale story, was to be a martyr, to be the hero, to save the world. The world doesn't need saving, and it'll crush you if you put it on your shoulders. But nobody knows that in their 20s, so they just expect everybody to come to the level of ridiculousness that they've adopted for their worldview, when everybody else just wants to pay the bills and feed the kids and go to bed. And there's resentment that builds, and there's people who just disappear, and suddenly the angry person is alone when they're in a ripe time to build community. The warrior has gotten tired, and now the teacher, mentor, parent needs to come online. In that medicine wheel progression, I felt ashamed. Until now, I look back and say, dang, you lived in a debris hut for 2.5 years to save on rent. That's actually a pretty good thing to have in your path, because now it evolved into this. So if you want to adopt the skills, yes, start small. And if you're not crafty with your hands, hang a bird feeder and learn the difference between how the birds react, from the delivery person to the old friend to the relative coming in, and you'll notice there is a difference. And suddenly you're seeing the birds everywhere behaving in certain ways to show that there's a police speed trap up in the turnaround, or that there's someone walking their dog before you even see them while you're washing the dishes. You feel connected to something, and it gives you a sense of peace and belonging. On that level alone, the skills are worth incorporating. It's not about hundreds of hours. It's about that one moment of aha, of beauty, of capturing the sunset, or watching that bird singing in live time, its throat moving and its beak moving, and being present for it before you go into the rush of the workload that you have that day. And then at the end, doing it one more time, just to bookend and put into context not only your experience, but your life. That is, to me, a good way to incorporate it.
And in context, all the stuff around you, right? So, kind of back to like the craft end of this for a minute, right? The more you know how to do things, the more everything around you looks like a future project. Because the stuff around you just makes sense. You know, almost everything. I do buy stuff for projects, right? I buy stuff for one of my next big project is going to involve canvas, and there isn't just like a canvas bush that I can go and harvest, right? So I bought some canvas. But most of my wood just comes out of the firewood stack. I'm always like going carrying wood. Oh, but not this one.
Yeah.
Right?
This would make a great for this side.
Exactly. And then you get the pile gets bigger, and then I have to go. It's like, oh, that's a big pile. Go, okay, that one can go back, and that one it kind of recycles through, and you end up using the best stuff. But there's a progression from I can't do anything if I don't spend money at the store, to I can do some things with what's around me, to everything around me is just part of my path, and I go to the store when I want to. You know what I mean? Like when I want to use canvas for something because leather would be too heavy.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's like the leather that I tan is dumpster dived from a local processor. The bone carving, the bone is dumpster dived from a local processor, right? Most of my woodworking is stuff I pull out of the, firewood pile, right? Just because everything around starts to make sense. I don't want to say that like the forest is your grocery store, because the forest is a thing which deserves its own right to exist for its own reasons. Yes. But when you understand it and you're part of it, you just don't need the stores.
We harvest serviceberry and blueberries in front of the grocery store. They planted them.
Nice.
And there's people going in to get bags.
You get their blueberries.
And I'm thinking, there's more nutrition out here than there are at all of the inside shelves of that grocery store. And it's, it's delicious and it's free. It's seasonal, so you got to be on it. But you got to be careful about the harvest, because if we bring that consumer mind to the real and natural world, it's a world of give and take, mutually beneficial. Grandfather Ray has a great saying: we take care of the forest for the forest's sake, and the forest takes care of itself. And that's a commitment, and it's also a leap of faith. But you could see why there was so much biomass. The original nations weren't oversimplified advertisement cavemen. they had bigger craniums, better diets, and a more visceral learning curve. It's hard to see starved loved ones in the winter, and to have to take lives from people you know and work with in the bounty of spring and summer because there's not enough food, and they've accidentally come over to your end of the hunting area and broken agreement, and there's not enough food for the bellies, and death is the failed homework assignment. That's a hard thing when you're plugged in with all of your senses, including your emotions. Much more than having an F on a refrigerator magnet.
Yeah, yeah.
You know.
And at the same time, it's much harder for us now because we haven't tended that garden.
Yes.
Right? When they, 500 years ago, we taught like the permaculture world. And by the way, if you're from the permaculture world, I very much believe we need the skills world and the permaculture world talking to each other. We might have some of those side effects that the world wants us to avoid, right?
Yeah.
Friendship and learning from each other's mistakes, right?
Yeah, and you young
But-
fist in the air warriors, you want a worthy war? Plant more shrubs and trees and
Yeah.
create edge.
Yeah.
Go to the town meetings and persuade from your heart not to spray that Japanese knotweed with studies that show how effective it is on Lyme disease and other spirochetes that are Lyme-like in the bacterial delivery system. Get in there and do good. Roll up your sleeves and stop killing the enemy. Enlighten the masses that are doing harm because they just can't see.
Build the alternative.
Yeah, please.
Build the alternative.
You want to complain about the ancestors leaving it like this? Where were you in making communication with the ancestors to see what they were really trying to do so that you can amp it in a better direction with an informed decision-making process? We're here for you. All right? I was the warrior, the Wolverine, and like down with the man. Now I'm the man. You're going to have that if you survive. If you survive yourself, you're going to have that. And we all want that for you. To be better at it too, by the way.
Yeah. But there's this whole conversation of like planting a food forest. But they just existed within a food forest as a component of it. As not as consumers of the bounty, but as a component of the bounty's existence. It's a radically different thought process.
Yeah.
And then other people came with an idea of just simply being consumers of the bounty, and the bounty was gone in a generation. Right? I remember stories from my my grandparents' generation, not just my biological grandparents, but my grandparents' generation, telling their grandparents' stories of what it was like for the first farms in the little corner of Pennsylvania where I grew up. And they would talk about trees that were wide distance apart, but were so large you could jump from one to the next without touching the ground. And feet of topsoil, feet of built-up humus.
Mm-hmm.
And to make their fields, they would burn out the stumps, the humus would ignite, and they would have ground fires that would last for years as they were burning the humus. And now that land is poor, acidic clay. It takes about 6 tons of lime before fertilizer even works, and then more fertilizer than anywhere else in the state.
We have it here too.
Yeah.
Good for
Similar
blueberries.
stories.
Good for blueberries and
Blueberries.
sweet fern. So yeah.
One cannot live by sweet fern alone.
No. Well, if you did have some questions, please put them in the comments.
Or are there more?
I don't think that. I think we've blurred through 20 minutes at least.
Yeah, 23.
So
For someone that is uninitiated to being in the forest, how do you keep from being scared of it?
the fear just comes from disconnect. The forest isn't trying to kill anybody; it's just trying to grow. And when you start learning about the plants and the trees and reading the tracks and working to understand the bird behavior and the chipmunks and things, it's suddenly a crowded room of exquisite delegates and mentors and peers who just want to develop a communication thing. Now, poison ivy is going to communicate with you in a way that you probably won't like if it's that you're stepping on it, because that's a disrespectful interface. Learn the poison ivy, learn the poison plants, learn what can do you harm, and then learn how to interact with them from a respectful distance. Like rattlesnakes, I love rattlesnakes. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. They're efficient. I would love to watch one hunting one night, but I'm not going to kiss it because it's a rattlesnake. And there's plenty of native stories in poison snake or venomous snake territories that talk about the character of another being and how it presents itself and the boundaries you should have, right? Because no matter how warm that rattlesnake wants to snuggle against your belly in the cool of the morning, and how much it begs you to, and how much it promises it won't bite you, once you bring it in, it will bite you, because after all, it's a rattlesnake. And that's what nature teaches. Understand and accept what is, and then learn how to dance with those parameters.
And that one's a good example, boundaries, right? The rattlesnake isn't, like again, the rattlesnake isn't after you,
No.
right? Twice, I have put my foot within a foot of a gravid female rattlesnake. Never got bit. Because as soon as I recognized her existence, I backed off. And she just wanted to go and lie under her rock and not be bothered because she's a grumpy gravid rattlesnake.
And nobody wants to waste their venom on
No!
me. We're just hunting.
She's not going to eat me, and that took like, how many mice did it take to metabolize and generate that venom? That's a meal she doesn't have. And if you understand that and show that respect, it's fine. But I think that fear is akin to prejudice, right? It's not innate. The fear of the forest is not something you were born with.
It was designed.
It's something you were taught. It's something you were taught by a society that wants you paying rent in that apartment complex, right? What 5-year-old boy is scared of the random spider skittering across the floor?
Yeah.
None, right? What 5-year-old girl is scared of the butterfly? None. Those fears come from bad storytelling as you grow up.
Yeah. Look at the scripts of survival reality shows.
Oh, right.
Naked and Afraid, Alone. Even Survivor is a soap opera designed to divide people. Where are the educational experiences on the big screen of, hey, like Bob Ross would do for painting? A grandmother could walk into the forest or the wood's edge on the backyard and enlighten and inspire countless grandchildren to engage in their forest and learn how to create from what is already there: food, medicine, fiber, utility.
We need a reality show called Together Unafraid. I'm not sure what the format is, but that's what we need.
Confident.
Yes. And with the privilege to make their own packs with stuff they know how to use.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And working together, us against the board, not us against each other.
Nice.
Like that would be a much better story. But yeah, no, it's learned, and because it's learned, we can unlearn it.
Nice. So questions, if you want to field them, Adam at Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel, and I'll probably have these in snippets for shorter videos for the other, whatever they're called, social medias, and we're trying to dance within that new spider's web of storytelling, because the storytelling, there could be some more to it, and I think the value of what the ancestors have told our grandparents and what they're telling us and how we can pass that along, this platform seems ripe for that, and we can inject some of what I consider white blood cell energy into the current themes, create a harmonic that vibrates a little higher.
Yeah. And I'll drop a link on my channel version of this to your school.
Oh, thanks.
So people, if you're on my channel and want to get in contact with Maine Primitive Skills School, link.
And I'll ask around on how to create it so that they could tie into your channel as well for mine. Like, there's like a way to do a team thing or something. So maybe.
I'm not good enough at social media. I do this stuff.
I have to ask.
I tolerate YouTube so that I could like present information.
Drop it down the well.
Exactly.
Hopefully you like this.
Yeah, down the well. 10,000 years from now, archaeologists gonna be, what's this?
Because I've fallen down that well, and it's just like, how many shark videos? How many?
10,000 years from now, all the archaeologists are going to be dating today with the microplastic layer.
Yes. There's like a lot of silicon and precious metals.
Yeah.
What happened? All right. Thank you for tuning in to both of our channels, and there's more voice out there. Yeah, it's an incredible place to discover when you see channels like Adam's that have such a rich and deep presentation of the skills. So thanks for being out there, sir.
And thank you for doing this.
See you on the trail.